maybe with Jonathan. And I would like to, in the context where there is a crisis in Europe, do you think it's still possible to raise money in Europe?
Well, thanks very much. Hi, and hello, everybody. There's no doubt that trading is very difficult in Europe. Raising funds is especially challenging, but there is demand and appetite there. I mean, again, you've mentioned my background. I'm ostensibly a technology banker. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and I have to say that at this current moment in time, it is as challenging as it has ever been. But if you look at interestingly look at the statistics of the $2 billion that Israeli technology companies raised in last year, 2011, 3/4 of that came from venture capital companies outside Israel. So therefore, the underlying demand is still there. I'd also make a comment that having worked globally, I've worked in San Francisco extensively in the Valley, in London and also in Israel. There is no place like Israel for technology, for innovation, for phenomenal companies. There is just nothing. So it's obviously always a pleasure to be here. And I think, to be fair, many European venture capital companies do, and private equity houses recognise that, and there still are a plethora of them who are prepared to invest in Israeli tech businesses. But like anything, the demand for capital is extremely high, particularly in this environment, and therefore it's very much a case of being ready, of being prepared. Depends which sector you're sort of focused on. It really is. The challenge is to show and to demonstrate that the commercial viability of any particular investment proposition is there. And that takes preparation, it takes planning, the scrutiny that particularly European private equity houses, venture capital companies go through at this juncture relative to previous years is second to none. I've never seen anything quite like it. And therefore the execution time frame, the time to actually raise funds, is significantly longer than it ever has been. But there is appetite out there. Some of the places I was looking before I came out here: Index Ventures, Amadeus Capital, Atlantic Bridge, Vitruvian, Rothschild family funds. They're all absolutely committed to investing in Israeli technology businesses. But it's a case of how you do it, the process you go through. And if there's one sort of summary that I would say, it's be completely and utterly prepared, fully prepared for massive scrutiny, for demonstrating the viability of the project, and for really bringing it home to the venture capital companies and private equity houses why it is your particular opportunity makes sense over and above the others, why it is that you're going to give them the best return on their capital. And so, you need help doing that and identifying the right sources of capital. But it is there. But let's not kid ourselves. It's very challenging. But, for the right investment, there's no question appetite remains. I hope that sort of answers the question partly.
People are not aware often that there has been more IPOs since 2005 of Israeli companies in Europe than in the US. There has been more money raised for Israeli companies in Europe than in the US. And do you think that the window will reopen and the market of the IPO avenue will be possible? Do you see that open in the coming years, or is it closed for at least the Israeli companies that would like to go public on the Euronext or in London?
I don't think it's just particularly Israeli companies. I think the IPO markets are extremely challenging. Obviously, we're very involved with IPOs across the board, not just from Israeli companies, but from UK, European companies, etc. And I need a crystal ball to guess at to when the opportunity for doing IPOs is going to be present again. I think anecdotally, though, there are a few things that we have picked up, which is that there seems to be some magic around March next year where many CEOs who we speak to across Europe are envisaging sort of a return, some kind of recovery. Maybe that's underpinned by the recent economic data that's come out. The growth figures obviously are slightly more encouraging than they have been. But in terms of appetite, that seems to be there in March. And the interesting thing related to that is it means that capital expenditure budgets and forecasts, which are obviously being planned around now, are going to take advantage of that. So that's obviously an important factor. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question. In terms of the IPO market, it's really hard to say. In terms of, the impact, the appetite to invest from a corporate perspective, etc., I think people are saying, look, end of first quarter next calendar year could look quite promising, and people are getting ready for that. And so who knows, maybe the window will open then. But it's impossible to say. Our transaction teams are not working on IPA pipelines at the moment, I will tell you.
Werner, may I ask you, you are familiar with Miss Angela Merkel, you know the politics in Germany. Do you think that Germany will support for a long time the weak countries of Europe and will support the euro? And do you think that, and how does this affect the German economy, this support?
Thank you very much. I think the economy in Germany has stabilized after 2008, after Lehman Brothers on the 15th of September. We had a sharp decline, and in the meantime, economy is growing each and every year. And also the perspective is very positive. Therefore, Germany is no longer the sick man of Europe. It's a motor of Europe. And what I think, what we should take into account is that the new normal is that we have a high volatility. When I joined the IMF conference in Tokyo 2 weeks ago, the chief economist of the IMF, Mr. Blanchard, said the uncertainty in the world is a normal thing and it's pretty high. Think of the elections in the US, think of fiscal cliff, what is about China, hard landing, yes or no. Therefore, I think we should deal with this high volatility and make our business models robust. What does that mean? For instance, our law firm, Graf von Westphalen, we advise our clients temporary limit and very focused because in such a surrounding of high volatility, you need a kind of speedboat decision making, and therefore, for instance, our colleague David Wende, which is here in the room, he's the head of real estate, Graf von Westphalen. He dealt only last year with hundreds of millions of real estate investments of Israeli companies in Germany. That means when we have a world of high volatility, Germany, investments in Germany are a safe haven. And therefore, I think also geopolitically thinking, we should work together, Israel economy and German and European economy, because the question will be, will we have a G2, US and China, or will we have a G3, Europe/Israel? And therefore, I think your initiative for this conference, the 10th, is a very positive signal in this world of high volatility that European, German, and Israeli companies should work together more and more in these days.
Yeah. As you're a politician, I may address maybe a question regarding the general politics of Europe and how Germany really is supporting the weak currencies. Actually, there is not one Europe. I would say there are three Europe. There are the Europe of the beer drinkers, you know, the one of the North Europe, the one of that weaker Europe, the one of the wine drinkers, you know, France, Italy, Spain. And there is Europe of the ouzo drinkers. And I would like to see how the beer drinker will support and help, how you view that for the future, those that are drinking wine and ouzo. Do you think that they would be capable to support that, you know, to face the deficiencies of the weak countries in Europe? And I know that Germany has supported the integration of East Germany successfully. And do you think that it's a valid statement to say that Germany will do the same to support the deficiencies of the economies of south of Europe?
You may remember that the former French president Nicolas Sarkozy said that the German Chancellor Angela Merkel was Madame No, because she was not ready to make action policy. In the meantime, I think we have a big majority, a common understanding that the policy Angela Merkel makes is a policy for a common Europe, that we increase our competitiveness. You know that we have in the European Union a fiscal pact. We have a common understanding of the basis for competitiveness. That means we have the fiscal consolidation within the next years. That is the basis. And we have a quite new understanding of industry. Industry is the basis of the wealth of the people. And for instance, in Germany, we have 25% industry of GDP. In UK, around about 11, 12. France also 12, 13%. US around about 11%. Industry is the basis of the wealth of the people, and therefore in all the different European countries, although in the US, we have a development of re-industrialization, of vitalization of UK industry, US industry, and so on. And that's another reason, Eddie, why I'm convinced that Israel and Germany should cooperate as intensive as possible, because in Israel you have very strong R&D, you have many startups. The pitch, we saw 10 wonderful examples for that. And in Germany, you have the strong industrial basis to make these startups successful. And when I see our law firm, Graf von Westphalen, we advise a lot of companies which want to enter the European market, Israeli startups, Israeli companies which want to go to for Europe. And therefore, crisis is always a good time to use new chances, because in the last 10, 20, 30 years, many things were consolidated. And now many stakes, many assets are going on the market, and therefore there are new chances for Europe. I'm convinced, and let me say, finalizing to your question, I'm convinced that Europe, the European Union, will stick together in order to play a role in the globalized, more and more globalizing world. And therefore the course of Angela Merkel will be the course which is successful. We will not have North and the Southern European Euro. We will have one currency, that is the Euro, you know. And I'm convinced that the Nobel Prize, Peace Nobel Prize, the European Union got in these last days, shows the politicians, show the people that Europe is more than the currency, it's more than economy. That means freedom, that means peace, and therefore I'm convinced that we have a common chance, Israel and European Union, to work together more than in the past.
Thank you, Werner.